ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing. It's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go, 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 go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Duke fans, welcome to episode 728 of the DBR Podcast, the Duke Basketball Roundup. Jason Evans here, joined by my buddy Donald. My bunny. I called you my bunny. You're my buddy, Donald. I don't know.
Easter is long since been over. We are like 3 weeks past Easter. No Easter eggs, no Cadbury. Right. Actually, if Cadbury would like to sponsor us, I don't even eat chocolate like that. But dbrpodcast@gmail.com. Holler at us.
In any event, Donald, it is Monday afternoon. And there's been a flurry of stuff in the past 24 hours or so that we need to talk about. But all this leads up to tonight is the NBA draft lottery. And I want everyone to understand that tomorrow or the next day, sometime in the next couple of days, we'll have another edition of this for you once the lottery is set and we're beginning to get a better sense of where Cooper Flagg and Kaman Malawach and Kon Knipple may be headed, especially Cooper Flagg. I mean, that's the one that everyone is wondering about. But we're going to put all that aside for the moment because you and I thought we were going to come on and talk about the NBA Combine and draft stuff and the such. And then we got news. We got news of another member of the 25-26 Duke Blue Devils. He is Jack Scott, a 6'6" wing coming to us from Princeton. And the fact that he is 6'6" means that, once again, Duke, no one under 6'4" allowed on this roster. Is that?
Caden Boozer is sitting there like, he's 6'6". Damn. I'm still the shortest.
Yeah.
At 6'4".
No Spencer Hubbard to have someone to be bigger than if you're Caden Boozer. Yeah. So Jack Scott, a 6'6" wing. I'll go ahead and say I'm a little bit surprised that he is leaving Princeton. His father, Joe, is currently a head coach at Air Force, but is a past head coach, assistant coach, and player at Princeton. And his mother, Leah, played at Princeton and is like second all time in assists at Princeton. His family's super connected to that school. And yet after 3 years, he has decided to leave and come to Duke. Donald, I got some stuff on this guy, but I'll let you get in for a little bit because last time we had, last time when we had someone come on the team, a guy who is probably, better than a walk-on, but not a rotation player. I did all the talking. So this time I'm going to let you do most of the talking. Go for it. Tell me a little bit about what you've learned about Jack Scott.
So let's start with this. He wears a headband, and I appreciate that because I'm a guy who wears a headband. That's my style. So we're already got brownie points here. But Jason, you mentioned it. This is a guy who is angling to be a practice player. He was fairly, pretty far down the depth chart at Princeton, and I is one of these situations, Jason, where this doesn't diminish him coming to the Brotherhood, but is this a situation where John Shire reached out to him? Or did Jack Scott go, hey, I'm trying to look for a degree. Maybe Duke will take me as a walk-on. I don't know they'd answer that question, but we need.
By the way, I don't believe he's a walk-on. I believe he's getting a full scholarship.
No, I get that, but like when I mean walk-on, the traditional walk-on in that sense with NIL is essentially gone, right? The Spencer Hubbard may be one of the final people of his kind of ilk that ends up on a team like this, mainly because NIL allows you to go after guys like Jack Scott and say, hey, come and get a graduate degree here, be a practice body, and also, again, help us try to win a national championship. This is a guy who's 6'10", 210, or I'm sorry, 6'6", 210, I should say, and is someone who can go up against our guards in practice and be able to, give us extra practice guys. And again, kind of like Ofechukwu, we can have a guy who is a true break in case of emergency type of player, but we expect him to be a guy right now that would be one of the last guys off the bench. But I will say this. I think those guys are important. As we saw, in the last few years, those guys can become, first of all, fan favorites. In the case of Spencer Hubbard, every time he came off the bench to check to the game, everybody in the gym wanted him to perform and do great. I think also when you have a guy who, let's be honest, he averaged 2.3 points per game last year at Princeton. He's going to be a guy who accepts the role that would be comes with like reduced playing time, if any, right? He's not coming in here expecting to start all 30 games and get 25 shots. He's a guy who's going to come in and do his job, and really he understands that for a team to win a national championship, 1 through 15 or 1 through 14 or 13, whatever we end up with, all those guys need to be lockstep in with their role. He knows his role is towards the other end of that bench, not towards the guys who are going to be playing a lot, but it is going to be an important role for him as he gets to kind of bring this team together. And Jason, of course, he's a rising senior. So we have leadership in that regard, guys who have been in the college game, have had that experience, and we need that in a team that is going to be, once again, at least have some more older guys, but we obviously have another fresh set of recruits coming in, and these guys are going to need to learn the ropes.
So a couple things about him. First of all, you referred to him, a guy might want to get a graduate degree. Is not entirely clear to me that he has graduated from Princeton. This is sort of an interesting academic situation because he's been there for 3 years, and Princeton, in addition to being one of the elite universities of all time in the world, has a fairly stringent requirement to graduate that you do a thesis both your junior and your senior year. That makes accelerating the process really difficult. And I don't know that Jack Scott, look, he was like top of his class in high school. I'm sure he's an outstanding student. Both parents went to Princeton. I'm not besmirching his academic integrity at all, but I don't know that Jack Scott has been aiming toward graduating from Princeton in 3 years, which, as I mentioned, is just harder to do there than it is at other schools. So it may be that he is coming to Duke without a degree. And as a result, who knows how long, probably only going to be on the basketball team for 1 year, but he may be at Duke multiple years just to get everything in a row in terms of getting a degree.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't know if he graduated. Obviously, graduation was yesterday for a lot of schools, including Duke. So congratulations for once again to all the graduates of the class of 2025. But I think also because they're a student athlete, and especially basketball, as we know, they're on campus all the time. They're on campus during the summer. They're taking classes all summer. So if anyone is in a position to graduate early from Princeton's 3 years, it is basketball players, as football players, those types of athletes that are there during the summer for summer practices and sometimes even the start of their fall season. So we're not saying that he has graduated, but if he hasn't, he's probably very close. And like you mentioned, there may be a requirement, notwithstanding that, again, don't know how Princeton academics work with regards to student athletes, but could be overlooked, or in this case, maybe even altered with a different path to graduation than some of the other students because of the fact that their seasons start so early.
All right, let me tell you a few other things about this guy. First of all, this is his second year in the transfer portal. He entered the portal last year and almost went to William and Mary, but then opted to come back to Princeton sort of at the last minute. Now, he has always been a low usage player for Princeton. He's frankly, great guy, but not a very good shooter for a guard. Like his outside shooting numbers, his free throw shooting numbers do not give you the impression that this guy is a really strong outside shooter. I sort of wonder if maybe he was looking to get out of Princeton out of some frustration with his role. Now, I'm not saying he came to Duke expecting to play big minutes. You are correct. This is a scout team, practice player kind of level player. But it's worth noting that at Princeton last year, he started the year, he was a starter at the beginning of the season. He started the first 4 games. He got hurt. He injured his thumb in the 5th game. And by the time he came back from that thumb injury, his playing time was really inconsistent. I mean, like, it was weird. In January, at one point, he was playing like 5 minutes a game. And then suddenly they had a game against Cornell where he played 31 minutes and had a really, really good game. And then literally the next game, he's back to playing single-digit minutes. So I sort of wonder, a guy who was starting for a while, then goes deep in the rotation, gets a little bit of a chance, actually has a decent game, but then goes back deep in the rotation. I could imagine him being a little bit like, I don't want to do another year of this at Princeton. I'd rather have a more defined role. I'd rather be part of a bigger program. And frankly, as I mentioned, his dad's been a head coach for like 15, 20 years and was an assistant before that. Now, his dad isn't super successful. He's been a head coach at Princeton, at Denver, and at Air Force. He's had some assistant coaching jobs in there as well. It's not like the guy's making the NCAA tournament a lot, but his dad is a professional college basketball coach. And it's very possible that Jack is also thinking in terms of someday being a coach. Getting some time on the Duke roster will only help in that regard if he's someone who really has an eye toward a non-playing future in basketball. Anything else on Jack Scott?
Yeah, I was going to say, and even, the fact that we kind of have this pipeline from some of the Ivy League institutions to guys who not necessarily play huge roles on the team, but again, serve in that role of preparing our team for the competition that lies before us. And as we talked about in the last episode, we got a hell of a schedule that we're facing this year, especially in the non-conference slate. So we need guys who are going to be ready to prepare the guys who are really going to go for 30 minutes. But also, again, like Jack Scott is going to be in the prime mindset of stay ready so you ain't got to get ready, because who knows what could happen. And I'm not saying that Jack Scott is going to be prepared to log 30 minutes a game. But like you said, that more defined role allows him to be in this mindset of what he needs to do his role, excel in it, and help the team win. And of course, walk out of here with a Duke degree of some sort and continue that pipeline that we've kind of had of some of these smart schools kind of consolidating at Duke in the hopes of winning a national championship.
Exactly. Hey, one last thing I wanted to mention about Jack Scott. I thought it was very interesting. In his announcement that he's coming to Duke, he thanked John Shire, of course, but he also thanked Coach Schrage, Mike Schrage, who ordinarily is not involved in recruiting at all. In fact, I think that sort of he's like a special assistant. He's got some, weird old title kind of thing that isn't, I'm sure the NCAA sort of doesn't allow him to go on the road and recruit.
He has been elevated over the last couple of years to because remember, there's like 5 or 6 assistant coaching jobs.
Right.
3 or 4 of them can actually go recruit and the other ones can't. He's one of the ones that can't, but he started out as the basketball operations guy when he came back to Duke, and then elevated to that role. So he can recruit, I believe, on campus, but he can't go on the road to recruit.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. But anyway, it's very interesting to me to see a recruit, so to speak. I mean, Jack Scott is someone that Duke has recruited to the program. To see him thanking Coach Schrage, who, isn't the usual kind of, usually someone's talking about Jay Lucas, Chris Carrawell, Coach Dildy, someone like that. It's just sort of an interesting change up, and I just wanted to note it. I also think it is very possible. Schraggy's a guy who had many years coaching away from Duke, who's part of the coaching community. It's possible that he knows Jack Scott's father, who I mentioned, is been around the coaching world for quite a while, and that perhaps that is how Jack Scott knew to reach out to Duke, is that his dad, Joe, who's as I said, head coach now at Air Force, may know Mike Schraggy. I'm just putting that out there.
I mean, Schraggy did coach at Elon, right? So he has that. He has that kind of connection again to some of those schools. Again, Elon, very decent, very good school. We've had guys on the football team go from Elon to Duke. So again, another pathway there.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to get into the NBA draft a little bit. There's some interesting news about who is and who is not playing in the 5-on-5 scrimmages at the NBA Draft Combine. We're going to have news about that in just a moment.
Make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you want. The meals arrive fresh and ready to eat, and most importantly, they fill you up and they're delicious.
Yeah, and this is the perfect time of year to get outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors. Factor powers your day with satisfying breakfasts, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. With 45 weekly menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your goals. It's easy to savor more this spring. Factor meals pack in the flavor with none of the fuss.
It's time to get started at factormeals.com/DukeBB50 off and use that code DukeBB50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code DukeBB50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off plus free shipping.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
All right, back from the break, Donald. And if it is May, if it is June, then if you're a Dookie, sure, some of the focus is on the roster construction for next year, but some of the focus is also on the guys who just left the program who are about to enter the NBA, because every year there are a bunch of them. For Duke this year, we have, in all likelihood, 5 guys who are going to be drafted or have hopes of being drafted, 3 who are hoping to be drafted in the lottery, and 1 guy who is absolutely certain to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. And in just a few hours, we will learn which team has won the draft lottery and gets a chance to get Cooper Flagg. I want to just really, really quick, Donald. I just sort of looked at all the teams in the lottery and I was like, okay, which one do I most want Cooper to go to? What is the best fit for Cooper Flagg? I think the answer is really easy. The San Antonio Spurs have about a 7% chance between their pick and they own the Atlanta Hawks pick. And it's unprotected. So even if it goes number 1, it goes to the Spurs. By the way, as a Hawks fan, if the Hawks, with a 0.7% chance, if they luck into the number 1 pick and it goes to the San Antonio Spurs, I may not appear in this podcast tomorrow because I might be dead.
You'll be down at whatever they call the State Farm arena now. You're gonna be like, I need to talk to the manager.
Yeah, exactly. In any event, the team that has almost a 7% chance of winning the lottery is San Antonio, and the thought of Cooper Flagg and Victor Wembanyama playing together on the same team is terrifying to the other 29 teams in the league. Let me tell you something. If the Spurs win the lottery, then I kid you not, I think it's entirely possible that the Spurs win like 7 or 8 of the next 10 NBA titles. That is how great the defense would be for San Antonio if they had Wemby and De'Aaron Fox at Stephon Castle and Cooper Flagg. I mean, come on, what are we even talking about? But that's a long shot. So I sort of looked at the teams that are fairly likely to get that number one pick. I don't really want to see Cooper go to Utah, but I think because it's a franchise. No offense to Utah, no one cares about that franchise. It's just not an interesting. It's in a tiny state, it's in a small city. It's just not a franchise that people care about all that much. But I sort of feel like that's a really, really good fit for Cooper. I think I actually like some of the young players. They got a few guys who play some good defense. I don't know, but I think that Utah is sort of an interesting one. The one that I think is the best fit of everyone is the Sixers, other than the Spurs. Spurs are obviously second best is the Sixers. The Sixers have, I think it's around like a 12% chance or so. I need to look at the numbers again of winning the lottery, which is pretty, they're right in there. The notion that Cooper could be playing with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey and PG-13, Paul George and Jared McCain, man, that is enticing. That is an instant contender. The problem with the Sixers is everyone on that team gets hurt. I wouldn't wish that on Cooper in a million years. I happen to look. The top 8 scorers on the Philadelphia Sixers last year, not a single one of them played like more than 60 games. It's just that team is so injured. It is brutal. What do you think? What is the team that you think that could win the lottery that you think is the best fit for Cooper, other than the Spurs? The Spurs is clearly it.
Well, I was gonna say I split that answer into 3. Who do I want? I've always said it. The Wizards. That would be very selfish of me.
Of course.
He's not the best fit for the Wizards. The Wizards are not the best fit for him. I would
not wish playing with Jordan Poole on anyone. The Wizards have so many guys who are chuckers on that team. It's just ugly.
So I think the other thing is with some of these teams, right? If they do land the one pick, especially those that are a little bit further down in the percentages, some of these teams could, just like Duke did, right? Not necessarily do a full roster overhaul, but kind of go, okay, now that we know that we have this guy, that it helps with free agency, because I'm sure there's going to be NBA free agents that'll want to play with him, and they're going to be able to pick, some of these guys that they think will be able to, play around Cooper Flagg and kind of form the team around him. So right now, yes, the Wizards are a mess, but if they get the one pick, maybe that spurs them to change some things around and get some players in. I also think I have a futures draft with some friends. Maybe I think it was back in March. I picked the Sixers, and mainly because I said big market, like you said, there's a lot of good pieces there. The questions are going to be this summer: what do they do with Joel Embiid? Do they end up trading him? Because that's been something they've talked about for about 6 months now. Do they do something with Paul George? Again, if they get Cooper Flagg, do they think, is this the chance to bring all these guys in, hopefully healthy, and make a run for it? Or do they, again, kind of retool some things? I think that's the best fit for them, honestly, because of the fact they have a team that is especially the Eastern Conference. They're a nosebleed away from being back in the NBA Finals, especially with a Cooper Flagg. The conspiracy theorist pick of me is the Spurs, because if the Spurs get Wembanyama, the generational talent that everyone was basically tanking for, and Cooper Flagg, the other generational talent that everyone's been tanking for, that tells me, and especially with Pop retired and in everything and that has happened around that organization, that is the conspiracy theorist of me is saying the Spurs would get that pick, and everyone kind of, especially at 7%, where they're not quite the worst team. If they get that number one pick, that will guarantee me that they have frozen that ping pong ball for the Spurs for about 3 months now, and that they happened to pick the cold ball out of the hat. But I think
that's not how it works, man. That's not how it works.
It is how it works.
That's how it works for the Knicks. That's not for Patrick Ewing. That's not how it works today.
It's somehow, well, we'll see. Again, who do I want it to be? Obviously, selfishly, I want it to be the Wizards. Who do I think it'll be? I actually think it will be the Sixers. Because I think biggest TV market available, and the best team that you plug them in. And
Brooklyn's available.
And Brooklyn, yes. Brooklyn's a sleeper one, but Brooklyn doesn't have a lot to build around.
No.
And they could just plug him in. But yes, again, my conspiracy theorist pick, again, if it's the Spurs, we're going to ask some questions.
All right. So last thing about Cooper Flagg. I've got an interesting question for you. What is the one essential thing? What is the one key thing, if you have Cooper Flagg, that you want to surround him with? What is the one attribute that John Shire, when he knew he had Cooper Flagg, what did John Shire go out and get? Can you tell me?
Went out and got guys who could slash, and he got 3-point shooters.
3-point shooters. That is correct, Donald. You want to surround a creative player like Cooper Flagg, a guy who draws the defense, who sees the floor as well as Cooper does, with 3-point shooters. Donald, there is something all the terrible teams in the NBA have in common. They are terrible 3-point shooting teams. I went ahead and looked. Oh my God. Of the bottom 13 teams in the league at 3-point shooting, 11 of them are in the lottery.
Yep. I mean, that's how it works. That's how it works in the NBA, right?
There's no more common stat among all the lottery teams than we suck at shooting threes. And in fact, every single team in the lottery that has better than a 4% chance of winning the lottery is among the bottom 11 teams, or sorry, bottom 13 teams in the league at shooting 3-pointers. It is just, no matter what, Cooper's going to go to a team with bad shooters. Period. End of story.
Some of that is probably due to the fact that there was a lot of injuries on some of these teams too. Again, Jared McCain sitting out for 3/4 of the season. I feel like the Sixers would have a better chance at that. And also, it does take one, right? Case in point, my Pistons. We had Malik Beasley, who was second in the league in 3-pointers. We had the biggest turnaround in NBA history because of the fact that we had a guy that could routinely knock down a lot of threes. And again, as I mentioned, some of these guys that hit threes are hitting the open market for free agency. If you know that you're getting Cooper Flagg, you can call those guys up and be like, hey, do you want to come with this guy who's going to be feeding you in the corner or on the wing? And you can get 200 threes without blinking your eyes because of the fact that this guy is going to draw so much attention when he has the ball. That's the question. And I think, again, it's about having a savvy GM in some of these offices, which some of them do and some of them clearly don't, which is why they're in this position, right? They may have to figure out how to be creative to get the guys around him so that they can become a winner now, right? Because whoever gets Cooper Flagg, going to be on national TV quite a bit next year.
Yeah.
Going to get those high profile games. You know, they want to showcase this guy, and you do not want to make him look stupid by having guys who are routinely chucking the ball out of bounds and hitting and shooting threes off the backboard.
Yeah. All right. Hey, a little more NBA draft news, because this week, in addition to the lottery happening in Chicago, the draft combine is happening in Chicago, and every team is there and all the top players are there. If you are everybody who's been invited to the combine, it's 70 something players or so. Everyone who's been invited is required to get certain measurements, height without, shoes on, wingspan, that kind of stuff. Then a lot of the guys, maybe not the very top lottery guys, but a lot of the guys are going to do some agility testing, kind of athletic measurement kind of drills. And then a smaller number of guys are going to play in some 5-on-5 scrimmages. Those scrimmages are going to take place on Wednesday and Thursday, I believe. The measurement stuff comes out tomorrow, Tuesday. And it's going to be very interesting to see how some of these guys measure, like especially Kamen Malawach. Look, you want to see how, the guy who was listed at 6'7", is he really 6'4"? And does that change the NBA's evaluation of him? Yeah.
So funny you mentioned that, because I believe it was J-Man Takes.
It was, yeah.
He interviewed Khan Knuppel, and Khan was like, he's like, yeah, the 6'6" guard. And he was like, let me stop you. I'm 6'4".
No. What happened was he said 6'7", and Khan said, I'm not 6'7", I'm 6'6".
Well, he also said he said I'm closer to 6'4", and they said why? He's like, I measured at 6'6", but he's like, I must have been wearing Air Force Ones that day. I'm not. He's like, so, and then they embellished that even further. He's like, I tried to correct it, and then I just said let it go. So expect him to come in on the short side of 6'6". When those numbers come out. But again, it's very funny how you'll see that you won't necessarily see the guys in the middle. You're going to hear about the extremes, the guys who were like 6'5" and they're checked into like 6'3", and then the guys who are 6'8" and check into like 7'1", because they've apparently grown 3 inches in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to talk about the scrimmages very quickly, because no one who is like a surefire first rounder is playing in the scrimmages. The last thing you want to do is play in. Look, if you're a really good player and you play in the scrimmages and you aren't the best player on the floor, suddenly your stock goes down. So those guys are like, no. I'm projected in the top 20. I'm good. I'm not playing in the scrimmages. But then you also get some guys who are projected second rounders who are like, no, it's okay. I don't need to play in the scrimmages either. And that is where Tyrese Proctor falls. He has opted not to play on the 5-on-5s. And it's a very interesting decision by him. Most of the mock drafts you're seeing right now have him mid-second round, maybe even late second round. I mean, look, it's not impossible to imagine that Tyrese Proctor doesn't get drafted. Crazy things start to happen there in the second round. And, if you're not a guy who's projected in the top 40, and I think Tyrese is outside of the top 40, weird things happen sometimes. So it's very surprising that he has opted not to play in the scrimmages because most of the other guys in his general vicinity in terms of draft stock are playing. But I think it could mean something. It could mean that some NBA teams have told Tyrese, look, we've seen a lot of tape on you. We've seen you compete against the best year after year after year. And we've got a pretty good sense of who you are. And we don't feel like you need to play in the 5-on-5 scrimmages for us to know all we need to know about you. It could be a sign, even though, like I say, Tyrese is not mocked in the top 40, could be a sign that he is picked in the top 40 because there are teams who've said to him, dude, things are fine. You don't need to put on a show for anybody else. We got you. We're giving you a guaranteed contract. What do you think about that?
I don't know the answer to the question of whether or not he's gotten a guarantee, right? But I do think all signs point to positive, that teams are looking at him. And again, like you mentioned, he went to Duke University. He's got 3 years of tape, right? Like they know what he's about. They've seen him against the best. They've seen him beat the best. They've seen him struggle against the best. They know his ins and outs. And that's not going to change in 48 hours of scrimmages in Chicago this week. And so I think some of them are probably like, hey, we don't know what you're, where we lie with you, but we know that we don't need to see you. And we want to spend our time looking at guys that we maybe have not seen a lot of throughout their college career. I think that's fine. And honestly, when it comes to Tyrese Proctor, the news from this morning that Giannis Antetokounmpo is open to leaving Milwaukee has kind of thrown some of these into question, right? Because you mentioned the guy who is mocked in like the 40s and early 50s. Some of that could go up because if some of these teams, again, if they're able to land Giannis in a major blockbuster trade before the draft, you're going to see needs change. And I think one need that's always going to be there is one thing that Milwaukee is going to be looking for is shooting. And so what that means is some team may have to get rid of some of their shooters to land Giannis in a major trade. Where does that mean? That means shooters are going to be in high demand towards the end of that first round, beginning of the second round, which is really good for Tyrese Proctor because of the fact that he was able to increase his production from beyond the arc this season. And again, teams don't need to see that. So I'm very bullish on the fact that Tyrese Proctor might be trending up in this, depending on what happens with some of these trades that we've been hearing might be possible before the draft.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget the shooting show that Tyrese Proctor put on the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. There are very few guys in college basketball who could do what he did. And yeah, that makes him potentially very, very valuable. Hey, you just mentioned Giannis. And I got to ask you a question. If your team won the lottery, you got the number 1 pick, you got Cooper Flagg. What are you thinking about a deal for Giannis? Giannis, former MVP. I mean, I know Cooper has an incredibly bright future, but I mean, are you able to project that Cooper's going to be better than Giannis? That's pretty hard to imagine. Would you make that trade?
No. And I'm separating my love for Cooper Flagg in this. I actually really like Giannis. I'm hoping that if the Pistons don't land, I'm sorry, I love Cooper Flagg and I love Giannis. I hope if Giannis gets traded, I hope it is to Detroit or out of the Central Division so that I don't have to deal with him 4 times a year because he's that good. But I think also, and it's a good question because Giannis is still young enough that makes it a question. If he was on the other side of 30, there wouldn't be much of an answer there, or much of a debate, I should say. But the fact that he's on the short side of 30, he's basically entering his prime and is still best players in the NBA. That makes it a little bit more difficult. But I stick with the 1 pick, and maybe again you maybe try and offer some other players who, because when someone like Giannis becomes available on the market, guys who were considered untouchable become touchable, right? Become guys that you can throw in a trade. Oh, I'm never trading this guy. Wait for Giannis? Yeah, sure. What did we see this year? We saw Luka Doncic, one of the most untouchable players in the NBA, get traded in what was a terrible trade, right? And two superstars at the top of their craft were traded for each other, which means if Giannis comes on the board, people are going to sit there and come up with some crazy scenarios. Have I been on ESPN Trade Machine this morning? Yes, I have, just to figure out what could be possible for the Detroit Pistons, right? But it would involve giving up some guys that I think that's, again, guys like that will make the NBA ground shake. I don't think it involves giving up the one pick. But again, if you know you got it, that is some leverage that you can use to maybe acquire some guys like a Giannis to play alongside Cooper Flagg if you were very creative.
I mean, I don't know that you can get that done. I do think I agree with you, by the way. I would not trade Cooper for Giannis, if only because the way the NBA structures contracts, you're going to have control over Cooper Flagg for 7+ years, 7, 8, 9 years, even potentially, depending on the way those, contracts get renegotiated and such. Whereas with Giannis, you've only got a couple more years left. By the way, I want to correct you. He is on the other side of 30. He just turned 30 back in December.
Oh, he just turned 30. Okay.
Your point is still valid. He is going to be one of the 5 to 10 best players in the league for sure for the next several years. There's a little question of that. All right, but by the way, I want to get back really quickly to the combine. You took me off course, man.
you asked about Giannis. So.
I know it's my fault, but I wanted to mention, in terms of those 5-on-5s, I wanted to mention very quickly that Sion James will be playing in the 5-on-5. The really interesting thing that I noticed about the team that he is on, by the way, he's being listed as a shooting guard, not as a point guard. The combine calls him a shooting guard. I think that's fine. I'm not sure. I think he's probably more of a wing than he is a point guard in the NBA. But the team that he's on, really weird construction of his team. So I looked at the roster, the 5-on-5 team that Sion is on. There are only 2 big men on that team. He's playing with Maxime Reynaud of Stanford and Grant Nelson of Alabama. Those are the only 2 guys on that roster who project as power forwards or centers in the NBA. The whole rest of the roster is wings or point guards. And it's just kind of strange roster construction. I'm not sure how there are only 10 guys on the team, and they're going to try and play everyone close to 20 minutes. That's sort of what they try to do, is give everyone equal time, because it's not about winning. It's about everybody getting a chance to show off what they can do in these 5-on-5 scrimmages. There are going to be some strange lineups they're going to put out there if they're trying to get. So I think that's really interesting. I also think it is worth noting, the question about point guard or shooting guard for Sion. There are a couple legit point guards on his 5-on-5 roster. He's going to be playing with Milos Uzan from Houston, who was Houston's point guard. We saw more than enough of him. And also Ryan Nemhart from Gonzaga, whose brother Andrew is a really, really nice player for the Pacers. I think it could help Ryan's stock that his brother's playing so well, at this point in the league. But anyway, for Sion, big moment for him playing in these 5-on-5s. He has a real chance to elevate his stock.
And unlike Tyrese Proctor, he only has 1 year of tape, again, that everyone is kind of seeing, right? Yeah. As opposed to Tyrese, who has 3 at Duke. He only has the 1 at Duke, so he still gets that opportunity. But also, everyone, when you see stuff coming out of those scrimmages, don't take a lot of it to heart, because some of it, right, as you mentioned, some of these rosters are not made to mesh well. They're made so that they can get people up on each other, and they can kind of see how guys go up against each other. Jason, before we get out of here, did we not mention the biggest story coming out of the combine? The guy who's not playing in it?
Oh my gosh. I completely forgot.
The guy who
did want to mention that.
Yes.
I was supposed to mention this 20 minutes ago.
Go on with it.
We got news, folks. Isaiah Evans has officially pulled. Donald, how did I not mention this?
I don't know. I thought you were I was trying to get you there, and I don't know.
I'm a lousy host. I don't know what I was doing. I literally was saying to you, hey, we got anything else we got to do? Oh, yeah. Isaiah Evans has announced that he is formally withdrawn from the NBA draft. He had been invited to the combine. He was all set to go. And over the weekend, just when guys would have been arriving, he said, nah, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to go because I know that I'm coming back to Duke. I am not staying in the NBA draft. I want to, by the way, really praise Isaiah for this. having nothing to do with Duke and the fact that we wanted him back. He knew he wasn't going to stay in the draft, and he didn't want to waste the time of NBA scouts, of NBA GMs, NBA personnel evaluation folks who are, those guys are trying to, like I said, there's 70 plus players in Chicago this week for the combine. They are trying to watch every single one of those guys as much as they possibly can. And I think Isaiah, obviously Duke has huge connections to the NBA. Isaiah knew he wasn't going to stay in the draft. And so he's like, look, you don't need to have eyes on me, because Duke is sort of almost uniquely able to get good feedback for their players outside of the world of the regular NBA scouting. I mean, like we've mentioned, Duke is on TV constantly. We always have among the top prospects in the draft. So scouts are watching every damn Duke game they can. But more than that, I mean, Duke players just pepper the front offices of dozens of teams in the NBA league. Former Duke players do. So yeah, we've got great connections, but I think it's praiseworthy that Isaiah is like, I know I'm not doing this, so I'm not going to go waste anybody's time and get measured and all those other kind of things that's frankly meaningless, because I'm probably going to be back here next year.
It also means that he got the information that he needed before that point happened, so that he can make that decision.
Yes.
You know, and again, Duke is a way. We talked about this when you were gone, when it was discovered that he was on the list. The fact that there is this network that we already have, that a lot of our guys can make that decision about whether to go pro, or whether to stay at Duke or transfer or whatever, before they get to the point of actually declaring. And then there's some guys who say, hey, I want to test these waters because I want to get some more information. And when everyone declares for the draft, the NBA gives them a grade. The NBA says you're a first round talent, you're late first round, early second round, you're early second round, mid second round, whatever that is, undrafted, they will give it to you straight. And I think what he wanted was a little bit more of that kind of information to say, okay, where do you see me right now after my freshman year? A freshman year that was very good, but it wasn't obviously the best. It wasn't where he was. Again, he's not Cooper Flagg or Concanippo, who was starting every game. It took a while for him to get into his role, but when he did, wow, we got Showtime Slim. And he wanted to see how that would test up against the rest. You mentioned the number 70. I want people to keep in mind something. 70-ish type number of guys are going to be in Chicago. There's another 40 or 50, maybe 60 guys who are not going to be in Chicago. There's some guys who are doing G League combines. Like there's a bunch of guys. And there is one fewer pick in this year's NBA draft. There's only 59 picks instead of 60. So there's about 60 guys who are eligible for this draft, whether they're underclassmen or they have exhausted eligibility or they're international prospects. There's only 59 of them being drafted. And the fact that he was able to get enough information to say, I can either do much better or, realize what he needs to work on to get to the level that he wants to be, he decided to do that back at Duke. And I think that was the plan all along. But I think, once people enter the draft, everyone creates the doomsday situations that we've had on occasion in the past. But mainly, a lot of these guys like to go get that information. And now that they have that information, they know what they want to work on to get better. So that next year, this time, maybe he's saying, okay, I'm going to the draft and I'm a first round pick because I was able to improve in all these areas. So we are glad to have Slim back. We're happy to work with him on all the stuff that he feels he needs to work on to get better. But I think a sophomore year Isaiah Evans is going to be incredible for Duke. And I cannot wait to see him back in a Duke uniform.
Donald, I have breaking news for you.
Okay.
From the NBA Combine, we just have started to get some of the official measurements, and three of the Duke players, the three guys who are in the lottery, expected to be in the lottery, I should say, have all been measured. We have the official measurements. Ready? I'm going to go through this for you really quick.
Can I guess them?
Yeah, sure. Now remember, this is barefoot. This is not wearing your shoes. Mm-hmm. So Cooper Flagg first. Give me his barefoot height.
6'8" and 1/4.
6'7" and 3/4. You were very, very close, sir.
Okay.
Checks in at 221 pounds. What do you think about that wingspan?
Wingspan, I'll say 6'11".
7 feet. 6'7" and 3/4. So 7-foot wingspan and 8'10" standing reach. Cooper, by the way, is 12 pounds heavier than he was when he was weighed, at Camp USA Basketball a year ago. got 12 extra pounds when he was at Duke this past season. That's all muscle, baby. All right, Common Malawach. Dude, these numbers are going to just wait.
Okay, so Common
Malawach,
I'm going to say is 7'2 1/4.
No, he's 7'0 3/4 barefoot. You're probably right. When he puts the shoes on, 7'2 1/4.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in at 252 pounds. Guess the wingspan, baby.
7'6".
7'6 3/4. Guess the standing reach. Oh my God! Wait till you hear the standing reach.
9 feet 10 inches.
9'6", 9'10" is ridiculous. 9'6" standing reach is crazy town. NBA teams are going to love that. All right, Con Knipple. We talked about it earlier. How tall is Con Knipple barefoot?
I'll go 6'5 1/4.
6'5". You're right on it, man. 219 pounds. How about his wingspan?
I'll say 6'10".
6'6 1/4. Con does not have long arms.
Okay. All right.
And his standing reach is about 8'5 1/2. Frankly, none of those numbers for the Duke guys are a huge surprise. Jonathan Givony, who's the one sending all this stuff out, as good an NBA draft insider as there is, said this about Common Malawach. He's like, we already knew, but sheesh.
Yeah.
9'6". NBA team's going to be very interested in Man. That's all I got to say about that.
I'm very excited. And again, the draft is in, as we record, in 2.5 hours.
The lottery.
So,
the lottery for the lottery. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's going to be cool to kind of, again, get that order and then kind of play guess as to where, especially for Con and Man, where they could end up and who might take them. And again, maybe with some of these draft, with these trades that might occur towards the end of the season, right before the draft, there's like a moratorium on all business once the finals is done in July 1st. But it'll be interesting to see some of the talk that comes out before then, because I feel if there is some talk before then to acquire that one pick, man, or not the one pick, or a pick inside the lottery, we could see some of our guys be affected by that. Not in a negative way, but a guy that may be on his way to, for example, Man. Guess who needs a center right now? The Los Angeles Lakers. Guess who tried to get a Duke center who also blocked shots, and Mark Williams, and then the mysterious failed physical. We get to that point, they still need a center after all that. Guess who's sitting there waiting for them to be like, hey, offer something. I'm sure whoever has like that 6, 7, 8 pick, they're calling up Rob Pelinka going, you still need a center? What's up? Because there's one available.
All right, with that, we're going to call it quits here on the latest edition of the DBR Podcast, the Duke Basketball Roundup. Like I said, we'll be back in your feed very soon. We're going to talk about the results of the lottery, where that sort of sets up for the various Duke guys, including Cooper Flagg, to go. And we're continuing to watch and monitor for any information about next year's roster. We have not mentioned the word Cedric Coward yet on this podcast. This week, the NBA Combine is probably going to tell us a good bit about Cedric Coward. He is not playing in the 5-on-5 scrimmages. Part of that could be that he feels like his stock is pretty good. Part of that could be that he's still recovering from his labrum injury, the shoulder injury that has kept him out for many, many months now. But we're going to get some word, I think, on Cedric Coward in the next several days. And as soon as we have any of that, Donald and I will be right here, tell you about it. Boy, we are really hoping to get this guy in Durham. He is a special, special player. Until then, that's Donald. I'm Jason. This is the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home.